Beneath the ash. Setting, ruins of Delaris Prime, scorched megacity turned alien outpost. Tone, raw survival, awakening. Characters, Riven, former tech specialist, Orin, mysterious scavenger. Ash choked the sky, turning daylight into a dim twilight. The skeleton of Delaris Prime stretched endlessly in every direction, a graveyard of twisted steel and charred concrete. The once thriving megacity had fallen in hours, its citizens vaporized or crushed beneath the weight of orbital bombardments. Now only silence reigned. Riven emerged from beneath the fractured concrete slab that had once been a shelter door. His hands, bloodied and trembling, clawed at the gritty soil. For days, perhaps longer, he'd been buried alive beneath the ruin. The emergency oxygen capsule strapped to his chest had long since run dry. Only the faintest pulse of the implant in his wrist had sustained him, a backup neural stim device meant to stave off death. His breath rasped through cracked lips. Every muscle screamed in protest. Yet he moved, dragging himself free from the shelter's shattered remains and collapsing on the surface. He lay still for long minutes, staring up at the ashen sky, trying to remember who he was. His name came first, Riven. Then the rest, jagged and broken, technician, orbital relay division, fourth-tier citizen. Survivor. He sat up slowly. The city was unrecognizable. The once mirrored towers of the tech district were little more than skeletal ruins. Blackened monoliths pierced the sky where alien structures had been grafted into the human skyline. Smooth, obsidian spires pulsed with faint blue light, the mark of the Zalari, the invaders who had descended like gods. Riven staggered to his feet, swaying. His right arm ached with dull heat. He rolled up the sleeve of his jacket, stained and torn, revealing a strange pattern of silver lines beneath the skin. Not a tattoo. Not human. No, he whispered, his voice hoarse. He didn't remember the procedure. But the tech embedded beneath his skin pulsed faintly, responding to his thoughts, his proximity to something alien. His mind buzzed with unfamiliar code. Telemetry. Signals. Residual programming in a language he didn't know yet somehow understood. A failed experiment, he guessed. Implanted while unconscious. Meant to track or control him. Left to die when it failed. But it hadn't. He limped forward, guided more by instinct than intention. He needed shelter. Food. Answers. And most importantly, he needed to avoid the patrolling Zalari drones that buzzed through the sky like vultures. He found the scavenger 3 days later. Her name was Orin. He didn't know that then. She found him collapsed in the remains of a transit hub, feverish and talking to himself in machine code. She could have left him. Many would have. Instead, she patched his wounds, shared filtered water, and waited for him to wake. "You were glowing," she said when he first opened his eyes. Her voice was low, a whisper that sounded like it belonged to the ruins. Under the skin. Like a pulse. "I thought maybe you'd been marked. But you're something else." Riven studied her through bleary eyes. She was lean and sun-browned, wrapped in layers of scavenged fabric that hid most of her features. Only her eyes showed clearly, pale green, sharp with intelligence. "Why help me?" he croaked. "Because you're not dead," she said simply. She offered no name. Not yet. But she stayed with him. Guided him through forgotten tunnels. Taught him which alien patrols to avoid, which symbols on ruined walls marked safe zones. He told her about the implant. About the strange visions. The signals. He demonstrated how, when near certain alien tech, his hand would twitch and the embedded lines would glow faintly. She watched, unreadable. "You're wired into their network somehow," she said at last. "Not just a tag. More like a ghost. Walking between their worlds. Can it be used? Maybe. If you're willing to try." In a hidden alcove beneath a shattered hospital, she showed him her equipment: scavenged power cells, jury-rigged analyzers, old human tech blended with pieces of alien circuitry. Not just a survivor. A hacker. An engineer. A rebel, perhaps. He watched her hands move over devices with reverence. Saw how she flinched when a memory overtook her. Something had been taken from her, too. That night, as they sat beside a heating coil powered by salvaged cells, Riven turned to her. "I should have died," he said. "They buried me. Left me. But the implant kept me alive." "For what?" Oren didn't answer for a long time. Then. "Maybe you're meant to be the glitch. The flaw in their system. The one thing they didn't plan for." Riven looked down at his arm, the lines glowing softly with alien light. "Then let's see how deep the glitch can go." They didn't speak of trust. Not then. It was too fragile. But they moved together from that day. Deeper into the city. Deeper into the heart of the Zalari occupation. Following a map neither of them could fully read yet. And beneath the ash of Delaris Prime, something stirred in the silence, a whisper of resistance, waiting to rise. The data ghost. Setting, abandoned uplink tower outside the ruins. Tone, suspenseful, tense trust building. Characters, Riven, Oren, Kaylee's, former data runner turned rebel. Under the cover of twilight, Riven and Oren moved through the decaying remains of Delaris Prime's outskirts. Days had passed since their first alliance, and with each one, Riven learned to read the city's breathing again. The Zalari patrols, though precise and brutal, were predictable. Their algorithms favored efficiency over creativity, a blind spot Oren exploited expertly. "We're almost there," she said, pointing toward a crooked tower leaning against the skyline. Once an uplink for orbital data relays, it now served as a forgotten relic of human innovation. This place used to bounce signals across the inner belt. If the satellite dishes survived, we might be able to connect. "Connect to what?" Riven asked, adjusting the tattered scarf that protected his face from the acidic dust. "What's left of the resistance," she said. "Or at least someone who still remembers the codes." They climbed the tower under a red-orange sky, its stairs groaning with the weight of two lives carrying far more than flesh. At the top, wind howled through a broken lattice, and the structure swayed with unsettling rhythm. But the terminal remained, a rusted, dust-caked shell of its former self, embedded with human and alien tech alike. Riven approached the console. His arm throbbed. As his palm touched the terminal, the lines beneath his skin flared to life. Code scrolled across the screen, both human and Zalari. A hybrid interface emerged, reacting to his embedded tech. Pulses of data surged through his body like electric breath. He saw encrypted paths, dormant files, names he recognized from his days in orbital relay. "You okay?" Oren asked, watching him closely. "It knows me," Riven whispered. She handed him a broken stylus modified with alien capacitors. "Then ask it something. Ask it where the survivors are." Riven typed. The console answered with a single name. Kaylee's. Coordinates followed. And one line of cryptic data. "The ghost carries the key." 3 hours later, they found him. Kaylee's lived in the shell of a collapsed parking structure, his enclave hidden behind collapsed vehicles and signal scramblers. He looked younger than Riven expected, mid-20s, gaunt but agile, his eyes bright with constant calculation. "You brought a ghost," Kaylee said, staring at Riven's arm. "Figured the Zalari wouldn't waste tech on someone disposable." "Guess I was wrong." "You know what this is?" Riven asked. "Not exactly. But I've seen the pattern. Underground terminals light up when you walk by. Transmissions shift. I tracked anomalies for weeks before realizing they all led to you." Kaylee's led them deeper into his domain. Old solar panels powered computers cobbled together from alien scraps and pre-fall laptops. Lines of code streamed down every screen, colored in red and teal. "What do you want from me?" Riven asked. Kaylee's didn't answer immediately. Instead, he projected a grainy image, a Zalari processing facility. "They're experimenting on people," he said. "I intercepted a transmission. Genetic sequencing, neural mapping, prototype hybridization. Humans, animals, flora. Trying to synthesize something to stop their extinction. They're dying, Riven. Their tech is more advanced, but their DNA's breaking down." Riven's pulse quickened. Oren's hand brushed his. "Why tell me?" "Because whatever they put in you is connected to their command stream. When you're near, their systems slow down, adapt. That gives us an edge. With your help, we can get inside the processing facility." Riven stared at the projection. "And then?" Kaylee's tapped a display. "We make them regret not finishing the job." That night, sleep didn't come easily. Riven sat near a heater, watching sparks flicker against the metal walls. Oren joined him, offering half a protein bar. "You ever think about before?" he asked. She shrugged. "Sometimes. But there's no going back. Only forward. What if forward is worse? Then we make it better." Riven nodded. Her hand lingered against his. The silence between them grew more comfortable, filled with things unsaid. At dawn, they departed. As they neared the processing facility, the silver lines on Riven's arm began to pulse. He could feel the hum of alien tech, taste static in the air. It was close. Whatever he was, it was drawn to this place. Kaylee's handed them false tags, embedded with dampening signals to confuse scanners. Once inside, Kaylee said, "Head for the core vault. That's where they keep high-value samples. I'll guide you from the comm relay." Riven and Oren entered posing as low-tier salvage workers. The guards, bored and overworked, barely glanced at them. The interior was chilling. Humans in stasis, strange biological specimens suspended in tanks, data streams projected in the air. Near the vault, Riven paused. A pulse shook his body. A wall opened at his touch, revealing a chamber none of the others could see. Inside, alien technology pulsed around a central pedestal. A glowing crystal floated midair, reacting to Riven's presence. It wasn't just sensing him. It was listening. He stepped forward. The implant flared. Code surged. Memories not his own flooded his mind, pain, triumph, fear. A Zalari memory archive. And buried within, a revelation. They had implanted him with a failsafe. A control node. One that was rejected by their neural net but not by his. He could access their command structure. "Oren," he whispered, stumbling back. "I think I know how to break them." Sirens erupted. Kaylee screamed over the comms. "They found me. It's a trap. Get out now." Explosions rocked the facility. Riven grabbed the crystal, shoving it into a compartment in his jacket. He and Oren fled through collapsing corridors, ducking energy pulses and leaping over burning wreckage. Outside, they regrouped with Kaylee's, wounded but alive. "What did you find?" he gasped. Riven opened his jacket, revealing the crystal. "Their language. Their structure. Their ghosts." And for the first time, the resistance had more than hope. They had a weapon. Fracture point. Setting, alien-controlled processing center, then refugee ruins outside Zone 12. Characters, Riven, Oren, Kaylee's, Zalari Overseer Meldak. The ruins burned behind them. Riven, Oren, and Kaylee's had escaped with the crystal, but barely. The Zalari facility was in flames, and the air still shimmered with the heat of ruptured power cores. They ran until breath burned in their chests, until their shadows stretched long across cracked concrete and ash. Only when they reached the shattered edge of Zone 12 did they stop. Zone 12 had once been a residential block, now a refugee shanty hollowed out from old basements and half-collapsed metro lines. Survivors lingered here, not rebels, not soldiers, just those too stubborn or scared to leave. They watched the newcomers warily as they entered. "We can't stay long," Kaylee said, coughing from smoke inhalation. "They'll track the burn trail." "We need shelter," Riven replied. "She needs rest." Oren waved them off, though her hands trembled. "I'm fine. Just a cracked rib. Maybe two." Kaylee's motioned toward a low bunker ringed with scrap. A woman inside, barely older than a teenager, nodded and let them in. "Found tech," she said, pointing at Riven's arm. "Make it quick." Inside, Riven finally had time to study the crystal. He hooked it to a scavenged core link Kaylee's had built. The device hummed. Code streamed into his neural implant, shifting like waves in a storm. "It's not just memories," he whispered. "It's command structure. Access nodes. The pulse signatures of every fleet above Earth." Kaylee's leaned over his shoulder. "You can rewrite it?" "Not yet. But I can listen. And that means I can mimic." Kaylee's grinned. "Then let's give them orders they won't see coming." For days they stayed hidden in the ruins. Riven and Kaylee's worked in shifts, decoding alien syntax, cross-referencing it with human subroutines. Oren trained with resistance weapons, her injuries slow to heal but her will ironclad. On the fourth night, they caught a signal. A Zolari Overseer's patrol was rerouting near the outer processing dome. It was an unusual shift. Beneath the signal, layered in encrypted pulses, was a message, "Help me." "A trap?" Oren asked. "Maybe," Riven replied. "But it's coming from one of the Zolari themselves. Overseer Meldak. He's on their loyalty board." "He was," Kaylee's corrected. "Until last month. Rumor says he went dark. Maybe defected." Riven turned the data crystal in his hand. "If he's turned, we need him. Or he's baiting us to retrieve it. Either way, it's too important to ignore." They agreed. The next morning, they geared up, left the zone before sunrise. Traveling through the collapsed districts was suicide. Zolari drones buzzed constantly. Twice, they had to bury themselves under the remains of vehicles to avoid scans. But by dusk, they reached the outskirts of the dome. Beneath a shattered overpass, Meldak waited. His body was grotesquely beautiful, bronze and obsidian carapace, long arms ending in multi-fingered digits. But he bled. Blue-black fluid spilled from a crack in his chest plate. He knelt beside a destroyed supply walker. "You came," he said in stuttering English. "Why send a signal?" Riven asked. Meldak twitched. "Our kind is broken. The Council ignores collapse. But you adapt. Your species survives. Why defect? Because we were not meant to harvest sentience. We were meant to share. I failed. I want to undo." Kaylee's pointed his weapon. "How do we trust you?" "You do not. But I can give you the fractal key." Meldak reached inside his wound, pulling out a crystal of dull green. Smaller than Riven's, but pulsing with synchrony. "Command codes," Meldak rasped. "To rewrite priority nodes. This, with yours." He fell forward. Dead. Riven caught the key. "We're running out of time," Oren said. Back at the shanty, the signals had changed. The alien network pulsed with agitation. Search parties were combing zones. Something had shifted. "They know we're breaking through," Kaylee's muttered, "or they know someone's helping us." Riven felt it too. The implant in his arm buzzed constantly now, like a wasp behind his eyes. The alien language came easier. The logic made sense. "The keys match," he said. "Together, they can override planetary surveillance." We can blind them. How long will it take? Not long. But once it starts, they'll know. Kaylee's began packing. Then we hit them hard. Disrupt everything. Cripple their outposts. We can't do it alone, Oren said. We need the others. What others? Riven asked. She looked up. The ones who never stopped fighting. Scattered cells. They never trusted anyone. But if they see what we have, they might unite. Riven considered. The war was more than bombs and bullets now. It was signal and access. It was rewriting what the enemy thought they knew. We share the keys, he said. And we make our move. He turned to Oren. Can you find them? She nodded. I know where they hide. But it will cost us time. Then we start now. The fracture point isn't a place. It's a moment. And it's here. The Echo Code. Setting, hidden rebel base inside a mountain range. Characters, Riven, Oren, Kaylee's, Elder Selah, rebel leader. The path to the mountains was long and cold. Riven, Oren, and Kaylee's traveled by night, resting only in the bones of forgotten outposts and collapsed rail tunnels. The stars above were dimmed by the atmospheric haze of orbital debris, but the mountains still stood as they always had, eternal, indifferent, hiding what the world had buried. It took them 6 days to reach the edge of the range known in the old maps as the Draven Heights. Carved deep within its spines lay the last true resistance holdout, a network of ancient bunkers converted into a functioning base. As they approached the cliffs, 2 figures emerged from the rocks, cloaked and masked. Names, one demanded. Oren, she said, stepping forward. Kaylee's. And Riven. We bring keys. Prove it. Riven stepped forward and extended his arm. The silver lines beneath his skin flared to life, emitting a harmonic frequency that caused both sentries to stagger. A moment later, a low mechanical rumble came from the mountainside, a door unsealing, old hydraulics groaning in defiance of time. Inside, they were greeted with suspicion. Rifles tracked them from every corner. Rebels in worn armor and improvised gear watched them with hard eyes. But Elder Selah, the leader of this cell, stepped from the crowd. She was older than Riven expected. Wiry, with white hair braided tight against her skull. Her presence filled the chamber. You carry the ghost codes, she said. But that does not mean we follow you. We're not here to lead, Riven replied. We're here to finish this. Kaylee's plugged the crystal into the central relay. Images flared across the room, maps, fleet structures, alien schematics, subroutines. We can blind them, he said. Not forever. But long enough to hit their relay towers and burn out their command link. And then what? Selah asked. Then we talk, Oren said quietly. To the ones who haven't stopped listening. For hours, the rebels debated. Plans drawn and discarded. The network was vast. Too vast for one strike. But Selah had been planning something already, a simultaneous broadcast through subspace reflectors hidden in the mountains. We call them out, she said. Not to fight. To speak. We show them who we are. What we've endured. We let their own people see it. Maybe their soldiers turn. Maybe they see us as more than a resource. Riven wasn't sure. But he nodded. It was a better chance than any they'd had. In the days that followed, the base came alive. Techs worked alongside Riven to prepare the interface between the human system and alien protocol. Kaylee spliced the fractal keys together, aligning their code patterns into something singular. Oren trained with the forward squads, her eyes always scanning the skies. At night, she and Riven would sit beneath the stars and talk quietly, about what came next. Neither spoke of what was growing between them, but it lived in every touch, every glance held just too long. On the 7th day, they tested the signal. It has to be beautiful, Oren said. Not just data. Truth. Story. Riven nodded. He sat at the terminal and began to write. He wrote about Delaris Prime. About crawling out from the ash. About the scream of silence and the weight of being left behind. About finding purpose in circuitry and code. About choosing something other than hate. Kaylee's added footage, images of destroyed cities, human children hiding in tunnels, Zalari soldiers burning libraries and art. Not to incite vengeance. To show loss. Oren contributed her voice. Soft, unbroken, like the wind moving through old trees. When it was done, Sayla played the final version. Even hardened rebels wept. We send it tomorrow, she said. Every reflector, every frequency. If we die after that, we die known. Riven stood beside Oren that night, watching storm clouds gather over the peaks. What do you think they'll do? He asked. Some will hate us more, she said. But some will listen. That's all revolutions need. One voice breaking the silence. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. When dawn came, they began the broadcast. It moved across the skies like fire, leaping from mountain to satellite to carrier wave. The Zalari noticed. Scrambled interceptors. But it was too late. On ships and bases and distant stations, Zalari heard the story of a city burned. Of a people who refused to vanish. Of one man rebuilt by the enemy's own code, rising to rewrite their fate. And far away, on the command vessel high above Earth, someone was listening. In the days that followed, the rebels listened to the world shift. Zalari patrols grew disorganized. Fleets above Earth began broadcasting conflicting orders. Strange silence fell across certain territories, as if the alien network itself recoiled. Riven felt it deep in his bones. The keys inside him and the crystal in his pack pulsed with increasing intensity. The system was waking up to him. Or breaking down because of him. They're fragmenting, Kaylee said one morning, pointing at the relay projections. Some of their officers have gone dark. Some ships pulled out of orbit entirely. Others are calling for reinforcements that never answer. We gave them doubt, Elder Sayla said, arms crossed. But doubt doesn't end wars. No, Riven agreed. But truth might. If we deliver it to the source. He pointed at the heart of the display, the war core. Orbiting just beyond the exosphere, the Zalari war core housed the High Command's neural archive, communications relay, and final override systems. It was fortress and brain in one. We hit that, he said, we rewrite the outcome. Suicide, Kaylee's muttered. Unless we use the link you have. I can get us in, Riven said. But someone has to come with me to broadcast the final echo manually. I'll go, Oren said without hesitation. Riven looked at her. You sure? If this ends with one final scream, I want to be the one to make it. Within hours, the team assembled. A stolen Zalari interceptor. Camouflaged and scavenged hull plating. Stealth systems jury-rigged from human tech. The final mission wasn't just about sabotage. It was about a message. About showing that even from ash, something still breathed. Kaylee's remained on the surface, overseeing ground support. Elder Sayla coordinated rebel factions to strike simultaneously at ground installations to divert attention. Riven and Oren launched under cover of an ion storm. The ascent was turbulent. The stars blurred behind the cracked viewplate. Riven guided them through hostile space, the implant in his arm pulsing in rhythm with alien beacons. We're ghosts, he whispered. Let's haunt them. They breached the warcore's exterior using the stolen access codes Meldak had given them. Inside, the corridors pulsed with violet light, quiet and strange. Riven moved as if half asleep, half awake. The system accepted him. Doorways parted. Defenses stood down. Orin watched his every move, ready for anything. At the central core, they found it, a column of translucent matter, glowing with a soft, sickly hue. Inside, memory crystals, arranged like nerves in a brain. Upload sequence ready, Orin said, patching in the final echo. Riven activated his neural link. Memories surged. Not his own. A world dying. Zalari children unable to grow. Cities hollowed by entropy. Science turned desperate. Ethics overwritten by extinction. Then, humanity. Raw, unbroken, chaotic. Adaptable. Terrifying. And yet beautiful. Riven saw the truth behind the invasion. Not conquest. Survival. He saw her too. Orin. A future possible only if he chose differently. He spoke into the system. You left me for dead, he whispered. But I am what still breathes. Then he pressed the final key. The message echoed out, reaching every vessel, every base, every mind still wired into the network. Not a threat. Not a scream. A plea. And something cracked. Across the planet, ships disengaged. Zalari foot soldiers paused. Some collapsed. Others turned. Above, on the bridge of the high command vessel, General Threxin watched the feed and trembled. They did it, Kaylee said, watching from the surface. In the core, alarms blared. They're purging, Orin said. They're going to destroy the archive. Not if we become it, Riven replied. He turned to her. We merge the nanites. Our memories. We become the record. We survive this. We. He took her hand. Us. Together, they stepped into the light. Later, survivors from both sides would find only silence in the warcore. But data would trickle out. Files with human voices. One male. One female. Telling a story. Of ash. And breath. And hope. And when the war ended, and treaties formed, and the Zalari and humans built their fragile peace, statues would be raised. Not of soldiers. But of Riven and Orin. Because some revolutions begin not with fire. But with what still breathes.